Before we get into this message, I do want to let you know, if you are having a hard time with letting go of that ex, letting go of those toxic habits, letting go of that toxic situation, you know what it is. You can check out the ebook, Letting Go When God Says So. We can help you. And then we also have the prayer book, the Hey God prayer book. These are the prayers for the things that we don't know how to say out loud. It's amazing. There's a bunch of prayers in here that can actually help you. Got to get the prayer game up, right? I just wanted to let you guys know that before we get into this message. Right, Papaya? Right, Mango? Anyways, to the message. God knows that you're ready to move on. He knows that you're ready to move on. But here's why you still can't let go. First, I'm going to tell you something that might bother you a little bit. Sometimes the reason you can't let go has nothing to do with how much you love them. Has nothing to do with it. You keep calling it love because it sounds better than admitting that you're still waiting, right? That sounds better. Waiting for them to realize what they lost, right? We love waiting for that. Waiting for the apology to finally sound like you needed it to sound. But, moving on gets hard when you keep requiring the person who hurt you to participate in your healing. Your healing. You keep on saying that you need the closure, but what if the closure already happened? What if the disrespect was closure? You ever thought about that? What if having to explain the same pain over and over and over again, what if that was closure? See, we have made closure too pretty. We think closure is supposed to be, two mature people that's just sitting down and admitting what went wrong and then walking away with peace. Please. Sometimes closure is very ugly. Sometimes closure is accepting that the answer you wanted is simply not coming. And I know people love to tell you, if you are ready to move on, just move on. No. That's easy advice from people who don't understand what it costs to detach from something that you built your entire life around. Right? You're not just trying to stop talking to a person. You're trying to accept that somebody you planned your entire future with may become somebody you never speak to again. That is tough. That's hard. That is not a light switch, right? But just because letting go is difficult does not mean that you're supposed to keep holding on either. You're not supposed to keep on holding on. And maybe, that's where you've been getting stuck. Maybe right there. You keep treating, your feelings like instructions. Every time you miss them, guess what you do? You think you're supposed to reach out. Every time you dream about them, have a dream about them, those dreams. You think God is trying to tell you something. No. Sometimes you simply just miss people because you spent years loving them, right? Sometimes you want to go back because familiar pain feels safer than actually starting all over. Stop turning every emotion into a message from God. Faith does not require you to abandon common sense. Don't do that. If somebody consistently lies to you and disappears every time accountability shows up, you do not need another sign. You need to stop negotiating with what you already know. You already know. Stop playing. Proverbs 26:11 says, as a dog returns to its vomit, so fools repeat their folly. That scripture is uncomfortable because guess what? It removes the romance from returning to what keeps hurting you. We love making going back sound deep. We love that. Oh, maybe this time is different. Maybe this time is different. We love to say that. Maybe God is bringing us back together. That's what we always hear. But sometimes you're not being led back. You're repeating yourself. See, God knows that you're ready to move on, but being ready to move on is not the same as being willing to accept what moving on will actually cost you. Right? We're not willing. Moving on will cost you the future you imagined. It may also cost you the satisfaction of watching them regret losing you. And that's where a lot of people get trapped, right? A lot of people get trapped. You say that you're moving on, but secretly you want an audience. You want them to see. You want them to see you doing better. I know it. You want them to watch somebody else love you correctly. But if your peace still requires their attention, then guess what? You're not free yet. You're still building your life with them in your mind. Moving on is when you stop needing the person who hurt you to witness what happened after they lost you. You don't need them to see everything, right? You don't need them to regret it. You don't need any of that stuff. Guess what you need? You just need your life back. You need your life back. And some of you are asking God to remove feelings that your habits keep feeding. You're praying, to stop thinking about them. And then you check their page right before you go to sleep. How'd that work? You ask God to help you detach, right? And then you reread the old messages when you feel lonely. You cannot keep reopening the door and asking God why the room won't stay empty. It don't work that way. At some point, prayer has to meet discipline. Prayer has to meet discipline. Jesus told a man in John 5, get up, pick up your mat and walk. And the man had been in this condition for like 38 years. And Jesus did not carry him everywhere he needed to go afterwards. He told him to get up and walk. See, there are moments where God will give you strength, but you still have to use your legs. You keep asking God to make you stop loving them. Maybe that's not the prayer. Maybe the prayer is, God, teach me how to obey what I know, even while part of me still misses them. Maybe that's a better prayer. Because you do not have to stop caring before you start leaving, right? You do not have to hate somebody to create distance. That's what a lot of people get wrong about moving on, right? They keep waiting for one final betrayal that makes leaving easy. But you don't need another wound to justify protecting yourself. You don't need another wound for that. Stop waiting for the relationship to become unbearable before you give yourself permission to leave it behind. You can leave it behind. And I need you to understand this. Forgiveness and reconciliation are not the same thing, right? Those are two different things. You can forgive somebody and never give them the same access again. You can pray for somebody and still keep your distance. Forgiveness deals with what you carry. Reconciliation requires trust, accountability, and repentance, and changed behavior. Stop letting people use your faith to pressure you back into situations that keep draining you. God is not asking you to prove you have a good heart by repeatedly volunteering to be hurt. And maybe you still can't let go because you're afraid of what happens when you finally do, right? Because once you actually let go, you have to figure out what your life looks like without waiting for their text. You have to face a future that no longer includes the plans that you made with them. And that's tough. That empty space can be very uncomfortable. But don't rush to fill it. Don't grab another person just because loneliness showed up like a lot of people do. Don't run back to the same person either because starting over feels unfamiliar, right? Don't do that either. Sit with your life. Rebuild your routines. Get serious about the areas of yourself that you neglected while you were busy trying to save something that kept draining you. You got to get serious. Because sometimes the hardest thing about moving on is realizing how much of yourself that you abandoned trying to keep somebody else. Sometimes that's the hardest part. And now you have to rebuild trust with yourself. Every time you say, I'm done, and then you go back, you are teaching yourself that you can't trust your own decisions. Every time you say that. You want to feel strong? Guess what you do? Start doing what you said you were going to do. If you said that you're not calling, then don't call. If you said that you're done checking, you better stop the checking. Not because you're trying to prove something to them or anything, but because you need to become somebody you can depend on again. You. Moving on is not one big emotional moment. Most of the time, it's small decisions that nobody sees, right? It's choosing not to respond when you know the conversation will take you backward. It's choosing not to investigate what they're doing because you finally understand that knowing more is not helping your healing. It's not. It's only going to hurt you. But I need you to hear me. Moving on does not mean that you never think about them again. I need you to hear that part too. Moving on simply means that the thought of them no longer gets to decide what you do next. That's what moving on is. That is the goal. Not forgetting, freedom. The love can have been real without the relationship being right. You can admit that there were a lot of good moments and still tell the truth about what the relationship became. Stop rewriting reality every time you get lonely. Loneliness has a way of editing the past, right? It will, and I promise you, it will remind you of who they were when things were good. But it'll also make you forget who you became when things got bad. God knows that you're ready to move on. He knows. But maybe the reason you still can't let go is because you're waiting for moving on to feel good before you actually do it. You're waiting for the day you wake up and you don't care. You're waiting for the day that their name means nothing to you. That day may come, if I'm being real. That day may come. But you cannot make your next decision depending on your emotions. Sometimes you have to leave while your heart is still trying to negotiate. It's a hard decision, but you have to do it. Sometimes you have to close the door while part of you still wishes they would knock. Feelings are allowed to speak, but they are not allowed to run your life. God is not going to force you to release what you keep choosing to revisit. You can pray all night, my friend. You can pray all night, but if you wake up and you feed the same attachment, you are literally working against the thing that you ask God to help you overcome. There comes a point where you have to participate in your own freedom. Stop asking God for another sign. Stop asking God for another sign when the truth has already been clear and you know it. Stop asking for one more conversation when the last conversation gave you the answer. Make the decision. Make the decision. Grieve the future that you imagine. Yes, do that. Forgive without reopening access. And walk. Walk while you still miss them. Even if it's hard, walk while you still miss them. Walk while part of you still wishes it could have, been good and it could have worked. God knows that you're ready to move on though. You got this and you can do it. Now, if you are having a hard time with that and you want to let go, you need a little extra help, you can check out the ebook, Letting Go When God Said So. It's a step-by-step guide on how to release with grace. Why? Because there's peace on the other side of release. You got this. I'm yapping. Until next time, I will see you guys when I see you guys. Peace.